Good morning, everyone. So before I answer that question, I think I probably should make a little introduction to myself and also Truphone. My name is Paul Liesching, and I'm CEO of an organization called True Obsidian. True Obsidian is a wholly owned subsidiary of Truphone Limited and was created as a result of Truphone buying my business in May last year. So my responsibility is running Truphone TMR, which is Truphone Mobile Recording, and I'm responsible for the technology, the roadmap, the strategy, the infrastructure, and supporting Truphone's sales teams around the world to deliver that product. So I speak a little bit about Truphone. It's a relatively new company. It's been around for 6 years. It has 700 employees. We're based in 10 countries around the world. We think we're very unique in providing one global mobile network that is controlled through our own SIM card, and I'll develop on why we think that's important very shortly. We're focused on easing the cost and complexity of international mobile business. We've invested to date just over £250 million in achieving that. And if we look more closely at the Truphone mobile recording aspect, we are one of the leaders in the market. We now have nearly 4,000 users actually in the UK and the US across 50 banks, 4 of which are tier 1 banks. So really looking at Antonio's question, mobile is expected to be global. And actually mobile is probably one of the most regional telecommunication methods that we have. Actually PSTN communication is much more effective and it's much more global. So as a mobile phone user, which we all are, we actually have a local service from our local provider, and that's our home country. The further we get from our home country, the more our service degrades and the more the price increases. So we're all familiar with international roaming and the cost of that, with voice and especially data. We're all familiar with calling international mobiles and the expense that can be experienced in that. And we're also probably familiar with when we travel with our mobile phone. The further we get from home, the more our service is disrupted, and the less service and support our local provider can give us. So therefore, how we look at that is, local is good, it's good service and good price. When we look continentally, that service is getting more expensive and slightly degraded. And then when we go intercontinentally, internationally, that service can be substantially degraded and can be very, very expensive. So what Truphone has looked to do is to address this challenge, to address this problem. And how we've done that is by creating what we call Truphone zones. So Truphone are not local in one country. We're actually local currently in 5 countries, and we're soon to be local in 8 countries around the world. And what local means is you have a local experience. You have a local price. And we feel that's very important as business is globalizing, as business is going very much international, and we probably find that our employees and our partners are stretched across the world. So we've extended the zone from local to global. And effectively we've eradicated the red zone, is what we have done and what we are seeking to do.
Paul, what is Truphone exactly, and why is it different from others?
Okay, so why can we do this? Why are we different? Why doesn't every mobile company do this? If we look at what we know as the traditional mobile network operators, who are the big global brands that we're all very familiar with, and they go to market and they say, we have a global service, we can support you globally, Mr. Customer. And they do a very good job at selling that. Actually, when you scratch the surface of a mobile, international, global mobile phone company, you'll find a number of organizations under that. And that's because mobile network operators have grown organically and through acquisition over the last 15 or 20 years. And therefore, you can find that really once you look a little bit deeper into a mobile network organization, they are 20, 28, 30 different companies around the world. There are 30 local companies that work very, very locally for their local customers. They have very much in a marketing perspective and to a certain amount in a support perspective tried to support international business, but that's difficult for them. And why it's difficult is because they are organizationally disparate, but also their technology is varied. Because they have grown organically over time, they do not have a unified commercial or technical platform. And that makes innovation very difficult. To innovate, it's much easier to implement change when that change can be applied universally. So looking at a standard global mobile phone company, that's what they look like. They have multiple tariffs, they have multiple businesses, they have multiple technologies, and therefore it's hard as a global business or a business that does commerce globally to have an answer to your international users and international business. So what did Truphone do? Because we are late into the market, we had the benefit of hindsight. We had the benefit of going, what would we do if we could build a mobile phone company from scratch? Because that's what we've done. And we thought, what does the world look like today? Well, the world's very different. Global communication, global connections, global connectivity has changed substantially over the last 20 years. And what that's done is enabled us to basically change the stack on how we manage the stack of a mobile phone company. So what that diagram shows you on the left is a normal mobile phone company. It has three technology pieces. It has signaling, which is at its core, and that's managed by a thing called an HLR, or an intelligent network platform. And then we have media, and the media is how we manage the voice, the SMS, and the data. And that needs to be local. And then we have radio, and radio is the cell sites. And actually nobody wants the cell sites anymore. If we look at huge multinational mobile network operators, they are trying to lease back their cell sites, they're trying to get them off the balance sheet. Really, cell sites, radio, the last mile of communication between our mobile phone and the network is a commodity these days. And if you look at a standard global mobile phone company, they have 28 different HLRs across the world, or 20 different HLRs. They have different media transit across the world. It's all disparate technology. And really we thought, well, we've got an opportunity to do this differently. So we centralized the signaling. We took all that signaling control and we centralized it in two locations, in the UK and Amsterdam. And that manages our global network. We then distributed the media, because you need to distribute media control, because that controls the customer experience. And radio, we had no intention of building cell sites. We own 4 cell sites in Minnesota as a result of buying a small mobile network operator in America, but that's all that we have. And what we simply do is we go to the countries that we want to be live in, and we rent the radio. We do what's known as an MVNO deal, but a very light MVNO deal. As an organization, we have all the elements of a mobile network operator globally, apart from the cell sites that we go and partner with. So for example, in Spain, we partnered with Orange to provide our radio service. In the UK, we partner with Vodafone. In America, we partner with T-Mobile. And what you'll see here is the countries that we're currently live in. And what that means to a user is, when you turn up in a Truphone country, you are local. You can have a local number, you can have a local experience, you can have local tariffing. We also control the SIM card. We have our own SIM, and we have lots of patents around that technology. And what that enables is that when you do turn up in a different country, we dynamically assign a different identity to you that makes your experience a local experience. And because of our centralized control, we can manage support centrally, we can manage global billing centrally, and we can manage tariffing centrally. So we can provide our customers with a global bundle, which means that wherever they are in the world, when they're in our Truphone countries, they're not roaming. They're actually local, and that's just decrementing minutes from their global bundle. Also, when they are roaming, we roam like every other mobile network operator in another 220 countries. But because of our global distribution, we can actually drive down the cost of that roaming experience, and we can also improve the customer service as well. So that's really our kind of unique positioning in the market. Just to show you, that's where we are today. If another mobile network operator showed you that, actually they would be showing you one country with many partnerships in other countries. We actually have live network, live connectivity, SIM card service, customer support in all these countries, and we join them all together to provide one unified experience for our customers. Our vision is, currently we work in 3 zones. We have Americas, we have Europe, and we have Asia Pac. We'd actually like to work in 6, by doing North America, South America, Africa, EMEA, the Pacific region, and Asia. And that's where our roadmap is taking us.
Okay, Paul, but why is mobile recording important?
Okay, so mobile recording is very much an interesting challenge, and it's our unique network infrastructure that's enabled us to provide the solution that we do. But I think we should take a step back and look at the regulation. So this is being driven by the regulator. Let's be frank, nobody wants to record their mobile phone communication if they didn't have to. But the regulators have stepped in. They've realized that mobile is becoming the main pillar of communication in the financial markets, and therefore they must do something to manage that. And we saw that in the UK in 2011 when the FSA, now the CFA, but the FSA at the time, stepped in and basically compelled their traders to record mobile phone conversations. They actually introduced that regulation in 2010 and gave the banking industry 1 year to conform. Now we've seen Dodd-Frank in the US. Dodd-Frank is pretty onerous legislation on American banks, and that is now compelling banks to record their swaps traders' communication. And that's all forms of communication, written and oral, and includes mobile phones, not just voice communication, but SMS as well, and IM if they use it, and not just the trade. Everything leading up to a trade, the trade itself, everything after a trade. And that is now going to be fully into legislation on the 21st of December this year. Looking broadly, more widely afield, if we look to Asia Pac, the Japanese regulator has not actually introduced mobile recording, but they have felt that it's the right thing to do for their regulated bodies to record. So they've actually made it kind of a code of honor that the financial organizations should record their mobile phone conversations, and we're seeing a lot of activity in Japan today. And finally, more closer to home, there is no legislation directly impacting European organizations or European countries other than in the UK. But with the introduction of MiFID II, we believe that there will be mobile recording regulations within that. And MiFID II has slipped, but we're seeing that coming through probably towards the end of 2014, 2015. But I will speak very, very briefly about Dodd-Frank, because I think it's interesting. American legislation tends to impact the world, rightly or wrongly, and the Dodd-Frank legislation is no different. So actually Dodd-Frank asks their regulated bodies to record their swaps traders wherever they exist in the world. And that's a pretty interesting burden, because we've done some research across 5 tier 1 banks, and that shows that actually they need to record in 58 countries around the world. They need to record their mobile communication in 58 countries around the world, which is something of a challenge. There is some good news in this, which means that if they record in 15 countries, they've covered about 95% of their requirements. But still, that's a very interesting challenge. And that will impact upon the Spanish market, where we have global banks based in Spain. They will need to record their swaps transactions. Or Spanish banks dealing in swaps in America will need to consider recording their swaps transactions, or their swaps traders and their swaps communication. And what we're just seeing is really the burden of regulation hitting our financial organizations globally, and there really is no difference around mobile. So if we look at the requirements, we've just touched on the fact that this is global, and I also think mobile recording is very interesting from a cultural perspective. Firstly, we all understand that our traders are happy for every form of communication on their desk to be recorded. It's kind of accepted. When you go along and say we'd like to record your mobile phone, they have a natural resistance to that. Although the bank has issued that mobile phone, it's a corporate device. It is no different a communications device than anything that's connected to the wall by a wire. But because it's theirs, it sits beside their bed at night, they take it on holiday with them, it feels very personal. And therefore there's a natural resistance to this. The other challenge is around actually the convergence that occurs with regard to mobile recording, because actually what happens is that you get your compliance officer speaking to your head of mobility, who also has to talk with their with their head of fixed line recording. Those people have never done business before, and that's a challenge.
Okay.
So if we look at what are our options available to us in terms of you as a bank, we've had quite a lot of experience with this in the UK and now in the US. There's really two options that you have. There's a couple more that I'll deal with, but I don't think they're options, but you really have two options. Firstly, you can put an application on your handset. You can put a software application on your handset that controls how the voice is transited. Effectively what it does is it takes a call and it sends it to a recorder, and then the recorder dials whoever the call's meant for. Or on an inbound call, it diverts the call on the network and then sends it through a recorder and then back to the user. The benefit of that is that you do not have to change your existing mobile provider. And we've all had long established relationships with our mobile provider, and we trust them, and that could have been over 10 years. And actually the thought of changing your mobile provider is quite a scary thought. The disadvantages of this are that it has a fundamental impact on the user experience. And in the UK, what we learned was that we forgot the end user to a certain extent. And we took their mobile phone and we put an application on their phone that completely changed how their phone worked. It added an extra 15 or 20 seconds to the connection time. It stopped voicemail working as it should. It stopped call conferencing working. It stopped call waiting working. And as we know, the trading environment is a very pressurized environment. And literally time is money in a trading environment at some point. Changing how they communicate and disrupting how they communicate has a pretty fundamental impact. So the benefit is low change. The pain point is it changes the user experience. The other option that you have, and it's what we developed at Truphone, is in-network recording. So effectively recording from the core of the mobile network. The benefit of that is it's completely seamless and it works on any handset. As we're seeing, the handset market is changing, and therefore banks are considering their options around where they want to take the handset technology. And therefore, we believe that the solution that we provide enables that flexibility. Also, there's no disruption on end user experience, and that's the key thing here. The disadvantage is you have to change your mobile provider, and you have to change your SIM cards, and you have to have a new relationship, and that obviously takes time. But the benefits far outweigh the disadvantages, and we've seen that experience in the UK. You've got some more options, and we've seen these happen in the UK and the US. The in-house solution, where we're trying to divert something through our PBX or our switch or dial a secondary number, which is really affecting the user experience. And what we've seen is that operations people always find the path of least resistance. If you put something that's a huge barrier in the way that they can easily circumvent, they'll circumvent it. The regulator asks its regulated bodies to provide best endeavors with respect to how they address the technology, and it's arguable whether that's best endeavors or not. And the final one is managed by policy, and it's a very popular one to do. So managed by policy means we're just going to write a letter to our employees and we're going to ask them not to do business on their mobile phones. We're also going to give them a mobile phone, which is odd. What that's effectively doing is opting out of probably one of the biggest communication revolutions we've seen in the last 20 years. A lot of our customers and a lot of global tier 1 banks are putting mobile communication at the center of their communication strategy over the next 5 or 10 years. Absolutely at the center. They're making decisions that say, we want to get information to our people, never mind where they are or what device they're on. And that's all about wireless communication. By deciding to manage by policy, you're effectively opting out of that decision. And I think strategically, that's an error. A little bit on the issues around applications. We've experienced them. I myself built an application. We were considered the tallest dwarf in the market. It was the least bad solution, and we stopped it about 2 years ago. Applications simply don't work. They introduce a huge amount of disruption to your organization. I've talked about this, but applications on handsets reduce battery power, they stop roaming. They really fundamentally disrupt your user's experience and how you manage your mobile estate. So if I just focus a little bit on Truphone mobile recording, just to give you a flavor of what we do. I've shown you this architecture of Truphone. Really, what we've done is we've just integrated with that. So recording isn't difficult, in fact. Recording is basically answering a call and recording it and then displaying it to your user as they want it. Recording SMS is pretty simple as well. We're just receiving a text file and storing it. The cleverness around how we do mobile recording is around the fact that the Truphone mobile network is so extensible and it's so powerful on a global basis that it's relatively simple for us to integrate at its core. So we are basically providing a commercial version of lawful intercept is what we do. We record at the core of the network. And we record voice and SMS at the absolute network core, which is invisible to the end user. What we have done in response to this global challenge of mobile recording is actually build 3 recording hubs globally to kind of join up the planet. We have our UK environment which supports Europe. We've just 4 months ago we completed our environment in the US that's managing our US customers, and as we speak we're currently deploying in Hong Kong to manage our APAC hub, and that will be live by the end of the year. And then we add a number of other layers onto that with respect to how we record and store that information and transit that information. One interesting thing that we've patented is that on a mobile, let's talk about a fixed line. When we record fixed line, the fixed line recorder is never that far from the handset. When you record mobile, the mobile phone could be 6,000 miles, could be 7,000 miles from the recorder. And actually you've got to get that call through the recorder in order for it to be recorded. So someone who's roaming, who's a Spanish recorded user, roaming in Australia, that call, if not addressed correctly, has to be dragged back through the recorder in Europe in order to be managed. And that introduces a huge amount of latency in the call, in-call latency. And we've patented this idea of media forking to enable mobile recording. So what we are doing is we're using Truphone's very powerful network to drag the call back through the nearest node, the nearest media node, and then fork a separate leg of the call to be recorded. Simply we're taking latency out of the equation, and that gives a much better user experience. We provide 2 types of storage. We provide cloud-based storage, and we provide on-site storage into NICE or Verint recording infrastructure. When I started this 5 years ago, I made the assumption incorrectly that all banks would like to record their information in their existing environment. As we all know, we guard this information very closely, and therefore the idea of cloud storage to the banking world 5 years ago didn't really stack up. As we stand today, 95% of our customers store in our secure managed cloud. And I think we've been part of bringing cloud storage through into the banking world. Many of our customers decided that we'll store in the cloud to start, and then we'll move on site. But actually, in the end, it worked. No one lost an eye. Everyone was fine, stored in the cloud, and therefore they never actually moved on site in the end. So our cloud proposition is quite core. And we just look at a few kind of highlights. Security is very, very important. We've been through sort of 60 or 70 security assessments from global banks to make sure that our cloud storage actually works. Because of the way we've built it, we can provide seamless support for our customers on a global basis, and that's really about what Truphone have developed over the years. The implementation is, I say simple to implement. Nothing's ever simple to implement. I mean, actually, implementation of mobile handsets across your organization is always troublesome. But we have quite a different approach to customer service. We've looked at traditional mobile phone companies and how they manage their customer service. We think we can do a much better job. So we're much more hands-on in terms of deployment, and we do deployment of our handsets in a very different way. And we have a great team in Spain that can go and manage that with you.
Paul, one question. It's a good solution, but under the point of view of the user, what's the impact on the end user?
Okay, so as I touched on earlier, I can't impress this enough. The only way this succeeds is if the end user has the same experiences that they have on a non-recorded handset. And we've tried to achieve that. And, you know, we've got there, but we still introduce another 1 second or 2 seconds of overhead and call connection time. And that's us working at the very core of the network. We manage that because legislation says that we must play notification to people on an inbound or outbound call, and therefore we mask that delay by playing a message. But even us introduce a slight delay. But in all other respects, they can use their Android handset, their iPhone handset, their BlackBerry, and they can just use all other phone functionality, such as call conferencing, such as call waiting, because actually, you've really got to understand how your users use your mobile phones, and when you dig down, sometimes the answers can be relatively interesting.
Okay, we have lack of time, but it's interesting if you give us an approach about the hosted recording and what the implementation, how the implementation can be done, and the integration with the current systems in the customers.
Okay, so I will be quick. Let me just make sure I'm clear on what we're going to go through. Yeah, fine. Okay, so very, very quickly, this is our stack. We have signaling at the core, then we manage our media, we manage our recording, our storage, and our user interface. Recording, storage, and user interface is what we do in our managed service. The red line represents where we can break that and where we can actually deliver calls to the customer site. So we have a long-standing relationship with NICE. We've integrated with NICE, many flavors of NICE over the years. We're just signing off on our NTR integration with NICE. And strategically, long term, you're going to want to have all your recordings in one place. And we understand that. And therefore, NICE integration is very important to us, and we're doing quite a lot of that starting to happen in the States. And we just simply do it at our media layer. So we actually use SBCs to kind of normalize the flow of traffic to your recorder. NICE have an API that they've developed that enables that integration. And we simply deliver the recordings to the user. We have a flavor of that where we actually record ourselves and then send that WAV file and metadata into the recorder, which for me, I think it's a more elegant solution, but we have a number of options there.
Okay. And to end, I'd like you to give us an essential reason why a company should decide to contract a different carrier than the traditional national carrier to be able to have your solutions. And also we want to know when and how it will be available in Spain.
Okay, great, thank you. So we understand that changing a mobile provider is a big step. And what we feel is we are a disruptive player in the mobile market. We think that we're doing mobile in a completely different way. We're coming from a completely different place. Large mobile vendors are defending their revenue streams furiously. We don't want to defend our revenue stream. Actually, our revenue stream's not that huge. We've only been around for 5 or 6 years. So we want to get out and disrupt the marketplace. And how we're doing that is we're turning around to international businesses or businesses that do business internationally and saying, we can improve your user experience, and we can improve the cost, and we can improve your operational efficiency. And if that's something that's important to you as an organization, then we'd love to have a conversation with you and show you how we can do that. Equally, we have the pressure of regulation coming in, and we believe we have a very strong answer to that pressure, and that's going to just increase over the coming years. I'll briefly just show you a roadmap that we have. So I've talked about where we are live. We are going live in Spain with our full mobile service in January next year. We're doing a soft launch over the next couple of months, and we're actually actively using the service right now. We will be having recording in Spain by the end of Q1 next year, and then we will be moving recording into also Netherlands, Germany, and Poland. And we will have recording in Australia and Hong Kong by the end of the year to add to our existing recording in the UK and the US. The final thing that I'd say about Truphone, I think one of the most interesting developments that we have is this, what we are calling Truphone Plus. So Truphone Plus is addressing the challenge of convergence. We've been talking as an industry about convergence for many, many, many years, and frankly I don't think it's quite got there yet. One of the reasons for that is that the mobile networks are defending their revenue streams and their customers pretty strongly. The fixed line networks obviously want that business, and we're seeing convergence happening. But actually, there's a bit of a turf war around who's going to control that. Ultimately, to make convergence work, you need absolute control of the core network. And we have absolute control of our core network. We have our own HLRs globally. What that means is we know where our users are, we know what they're experiencing, we know if they have GSM signal, we know if they have Wi-Fi signal. We can decide dynamically how to deliver that call to that end user. And actually, our convergence proposition is just simply improving coverage for our customers. And also, that will be recorded as well. And that's, I think, a very exciting development, that we're also looking to partner with some big fixed-to-mobile convergence players to see if we can make their propositions better as well. And that's going to be launched at the end of the year.
Okay, thank you, Paul. Thank you for your presentation, for giving us an approach and giving us an alternative for the traditional way of dealing with carriers.
Great. Thank you, Antonio. Thank you very much.